Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, A Big and Furry Bovine. Joining me is Brian in Arizona and Tony in Minnesota, and whoever else is along the line. If you want to be jumping in, you know the link is always on the show description on YouTube, so you can't miss it. A number of things to go over today. We had two NFL, the AFC and the NFC championship games. That one that ended up pretty well like I knew it would, and the other one that really went kind of sideways for the Green Bay Packers. And, the funny thing is, I'm not going to get into the Tom Brady is great thing because honestly, Tom Brady is, the GOAT. All right. No, nobody questioning that, but he didn't play well. 3 picks in one game. Shit. If Baker Mayfield threw 3 picks in a game and the Cleveland Browns hung on to win, people would be complaining like a motherfucker, I mean,
but those didn't happen until the second half because I'm looking at the score was 28-10 in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, first of all, it actually the game is 14-10 at the half, and Schmucko, I don't know how you end up with one-on-one coverage getting beat down the field with what was it, like 14 or 8 or 14 seconds left?
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell is that? That was reminiscent of what happened with Greg Williams' defense, and they weren't even blitzing anyone. How could you end up with nobody behind you? And with 8 seconds left in the first half of the game, all you had to do was let the guy catch the ball in front of you, and all you had to do was tackle him, and it's the end of the half, and it's 14-10. And just like that, it became 21-10. And, look, the thing about Tom Brady is what we saw is what we always see, and that is that he's got confidence. He's been there a million times. He's like the Methuselah of football. He knows what to do and when to do it. And, he's going to make mistakes, but he doesn't give a shit. He's got no rear view mirror, which is the great thing when you're 43 years old and you're already the greatest of all time in a sport. Hey, you just believe in yourself and you buy in and you're all in. And that's a wonderful thing. And King getting burned over and over in this football game for the Green Bay Packers will be something that the Packers will walk away. Packers fans will walk away shaking their heads. But I'll tell you, what's making me shake my head is looking at the parallel kind of thing here. You have Matt LaFleur, who's a second-year head coach, and he's gone 13-3 in each of his first 2 years. And thank God for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers threw for like 340 some odd yards, and he was like 33 out of 48. God bless Aaron Rodgers the last 2 years. And what did they do? They drafted a quarterback, and that kind of ruffled some feathers with Aaron Rodgers. But nothing was going to prepare old Aaron for we're going to let you call the third down play scenario. What a crazy situation where you tell a quarterback, okay, you're making the call, it's third down and goal, and you're on the 8-yard line. And so it's like, okay. So he goes through and he figures what play he wants to run, and he kind of sprints out and nobody's open and it doesn't work. Well, naturally, you would figure that he's going to be out there a fourth down. Wrong. Matt LaFleur doesn't even tell him that, oh, no, we're not going to go for it and actually try to tie the game. We're going to kick a measly 3-pointer and give the ball back to the GOAT.
Yeah.
That has to be, and it was like what I was talking about with Baker Mayfield when I watched it, 4th and 9. There is no better time than the present to allow a quarterback to experience that situation. And I still feel bad to this day that Baker didn't get that opportunity to do the 4th and 9 play. We punted the ball away, and sure enough, we never saw it again. And sure enough, they kicked the 3, kicked it off, and never saw the ball again. And that was pass interference. There's no fixes going on or anything like that. He grabbed him clearly by the jersey, and that was King again, and it was the same shit. the same shit. But how in the world, with Baker Mayfield, maybe I understand. Maybe. Because it's his first year in a system. But what is the excuse, for God's sakes, of having Aaron Rodgers and not letting him go for it? How does that even enter into the equation? I have no idea. Hi there, Key. How you doing? Welcome to Canada. Yeah. Well, that was the explanation. LaFleur said, well, we had 4 timeouts in essence, the 3 we had plus the 2-minute warning. And it just seemed like we'd get a stop against the GOAT. You're counting on Tom Brady not getting a single first down? Are you fucking kidding me? And that's your explanation of the press, and you're not ruled by analytics? You're anal about your analytics. My goodness. I mean, and this is what makes me like really bothered about the whole sports thing when it's just narrowed down into analytics. I look at my life and I say to myself, geez, I think of all the decisions I made, the good ones, the bad ones. But, human instinct, are you just taking over for Steven? What are you eating?
Oh, hungry.
Yeah, Bronk's fucking mowing down over here like it's...
What is it?
Those are like Polish sausages,
Polish
just swallowing
should
the
we pull a Headley Lamar? Well, I hope you brought enough for everybody.
Well, either that, I thought it was anorexic dick in his mouth. No idea what's going on there.
Polish sausage.
All righty then. But analytics can't be the be all end all.
100% real Polacks.
What are we trying to accomplish if we eliminate experience from an equation? If we just say that everything can be analytically determined, what do we need experience for? And I think of all the things that I did and the mistakes that I made that I hopefully didn't repeat, but had the opportunity to make a choice and make a decision, not consult some book, the book of love. I don't.
You did it your way. I did it my way.
Well, I mean, if I'm gonna look, there's no tomorrow in these games, and I keep saying this over and over again. It's like there's no tomorrow, and this is the end of Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Thank you, Matt LaFleur. I mean, Matt LaFleur is not going to be around Green Bay longer than Aaron Rodgers. Let's get that straight right off the bat.
He sounds like a center for the Canadiens back in the 70s, like Matt LaFleur, Guy LaFleur,
yeah.
Shot.
Wipe off the stain off LaFleur. Yeah.
That was horrific.
The cat just shit on LaFleur.
Shit on LaFleur.
God almighty. But again, I want to give Baker Mayfield all that experience so that it won't be the first time when we really have a better chance of winning. And but I can understand first year in the system, maybe But what excuse for Aaron Rodgers, the seasoned guy who's been there and done that? What a disappointment. And his having to do that post-game presser, and he was depressured. I mean, he was just like,
he needed life insurance from State Farm after that game.
I mean, my God, he just looked blank. I mean, it was like they sucked his soul right out of his body. They took away the one reason that he's out there. And, all these guys who are coming in to coach NFL teams who have no fucking business coaching NFL teams. And you know what it is? It's they think that there's a little book of analytics that's going to make the decisions for these people. And, you're going to end up with a whole new generation of Adam Gazes and people who just don't know how to motivate people. Yeah, Bronk.
It's a way of shifting responsibility, isn't it? You can say, well, I went with the analytics or I went with the statistics, and you attempt to shift the blame away from yourself and your poor decision-making process.
Well, what it does is it makes it a non-thinking position. It makes, what it does is it turns us all into Dan Campbell's. We're going to bite their kneecaps off. That's what you get. There's no strategy. There's no mental application due to experience that you've had. It's no different. And I don't mean to be rude to people, but it's like people over and over going to, the Bible and looking at the same verses and chapters over and over again. It's like, what they are, for God's sakes. What the 10 Commandments are. What is sinful. Cut it out. There's human experience too. And there's judgment calls you got to make.
Yeah, I mean, it's like looking at a hedge fund's performance, and you can see it's gone up the past couple of years. But the circumstances may not necessarily mean it's going to keep going up the same way. You gotta fucking use your head and look at the situation and see what's best and what isn't. Otherwise, chess is already beaten by computers, but not pro football.
As much as I don't like Andy Reid right now, you can't tell me that Andy Reid turned to to upstairs and said, well, what do the analytics say? I got Chad Henne in the game. It's 4th down. We can end the game now. Should we just go ahead and run it up the middle and get stopped, or punt it away, or should we go for it? And so he went for it and threw the ball and got it.
Yeah.
That's not
the same play yesterday, too.
It kills the trust in your quarterback, too. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a top 10 quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
And you don't trust him on 4th and, 3?
Maybe top 5, 4th and 8.
Yeah, he was on
4th and 8 in the fucking NFC Championship game?
That's just it.
What the hell?
The field goal there is worthless. Did you no good whatsoever.
Well, it's worth pointing out that he should have ran on that 3rd and 8.
He should have, but Aaron Rodgers is 37. He's not as mobile as, he's like Big Ben Roethlisberger.
He would at least have the 33-yard line or 2-yard line.
But what I can tell you? What I can tell you is this. If Aaron Rodgers runs, and I looked at the play over and over again, if he takes the correct course, which he would have had to have veered a little to the right, he could have gotten into the end zone perhaps. But more likely, the second guy who went to the coverage in the middle would have peeled off and would have stopped him at the 2-yard line. Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You still got a 4th and 2, okay?
Yeah.
So what you're going to tell me is they look at the little book and say, well, we can go for it on 4th and 2, but not 4th and 8. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If you don't have a play in your fucking playbook with a top 10 all-time quarterback to get an 8-yard touchdown, then, what are you doing? You need a new playbook. What do you think got you this far? It's annoying to me. And I'm not likening that to Kevin Stefanski, but I'm saying Kevin Stefanski, look at it long and hard and understand that there comes a time when you've got to dance off the page. And you're going to have to answer for Red Right 88. It happens for everybody. It does. Sometimes you call a play, the play doesn't get executed well. Sometimes you call a play and you're a genius because it works like a charm. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. And you're that far in, that's your opportunity to tie the football game.
If you don't win, you're going to be held accountable. So how do you want to be held accountable? Do you want to look like a gambler or do you want to look like a pussy? That's pretty much what it comes down to.
Here's the thing about Stefanski. Stefanski has a system, and that's great. It's great because we've seen so many people freeforming it in Cleveland and just kind of making it up as they go along and flying by the seat of their
anarchy.
Yeah,
anarchy in Cleveland.
No plan. But there is no plan that is carved in stone that isn't editable to be edited and changed at the precise moment when you're confronted with a situation that's different from what you thought you were going to be confronted with. That's the whole idea of, sometimes you go away from tendency, and that's a gut feeling that experience gives you. And Kevin Stefanski will understand this as he goes along. But what I can say is all these teams, every one of them, have a dyed-in-the-wool system. And they have, you're looking at the players out there. We did a better job against Kansas City than Buffalo did.
Yeah.
I was going to comment about that.
Did you notice that the Bills receivers, even the mighty Stephon Diggs, was not getting any fucking separation with the Kansas City defense?
And therein lies, that's exactly the point I wanted to make. Right? They're a complete football team. The Kansas City Chiefs don't have to just rely on Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Kelsey and all the great offensive pieces they have. They have speed. They may not have the all-time greatest coverage guys in the world, but they have the speed to keep up with them. And it forces, and what they did, which is something that will expose Josh Allen. They were flushing him out, forcing him to throw on the run, and the throws were failing, and they were not accurate. And what happens in situations like this, he couldn't find anyone open. And the speed is what kills, and it kills in all big league sports today. It just kills. The speed of the fastball coming up to home plate,
Oh, and the Bills' left tackle actually gave up some sacks.
No, well, that's just it. I mean, there's a lot of
so Jed Wills didn't play that bad of a game, folks.
No. In fact, we know how good Kansas City is, and I thought the Browns really did a creditable job. I just got pissed off they didn't go for it on 4th and 9. We had a chance. We had a chance to beat that team. Now, granted, I don't think the Chiefs played as well against us as they did against the Bills, but to what degree is that because of the matchups? Yeah, Brian.
Got a question for the panel. Now, disregard the quarterback position.
Yep.
Who's got the better roster between the Browns, the Bills, and Tampa Bay?
Well, I mean,
top to bottom, I would say the Bills are probably a little bit better than the Browns because they have some defensive stars.
Yep.
Multiple defensive stars, where the Browns have Myles Garrett, and that was pretty much it in the playoffs.
I mean, it's a great luxury to have pass rushers, and they were pestering Josh Allen. And you're asking about teams.
Asking the panel.
I would say of the three, it'd be Tampa Bay. That defense are the ball hawks. They've got Levante David. They got Jason Pierre-Paul. They have great cornerbacks. They have that Winfield Jr. is all over the field. Their offensive line is playing really well, and they've got stud receivers in Godwin and Evans.
Now, Godwin's had his share of problems. Evans is
and then they're finding like Scotty Miller. Never heard of him in my life, and he's just torching the Packers defense.
Yeah, well, I mean, he beat King, and that didn't seem really hard to do. I mean,
now granted, Tom Brady's probably a lot of it because I mean their backup's Blaine Gabbert, but
well,
I mean, the three teams we match up best against Kansas City.
But if you look at Scotty Miller's skill set, he's a lot like Julian Edelman and I can't remember the other asshole that went to the Lions.
He didn't run a special
Danny Amendola.
He ran straight down the field. I don't know what King was doing out there.
Yeah.
He was fucking up.
Just like King turned his back on the first touchdown that they threw to who was it in the end zone? The tight end. I mean,
Cameron Brate.
No, I'm sorry. That was to Evans. It was.
That was to Evans. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, his back was turned, and it was like he gave the wide receiver separation because he turned the wrong way. I mean, bad, just bad. As far as who's the best matchup against,
Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, we played Kansas City better than Buffalo did.
We got the best running game, I think, and we were able to, keep
There
the
was no
ball for a
running
while.
game. These teams didn't have running game. I
But
mean, they're not complete in the. See, we're now.
Kidding me.
how much?
Yeah, we have an offensive scheme, and I'd still like to see a little more speed at the wide receiver. Go ahead, Tony.
I was to say with the Browns, I do agree to an extent. I just wonder if we're gonna base it off of the divisional playoff game. How can we when Mahomes really only played the first half?
Yeah.
You wonder how different that game would have been with a healthy Mahomes.
Well, let me tell you, I think we could play them 100 times, and we would only be close maybe 5 of them. I mean, there was that much separation, and our defense just isn't ready. And I'm getting asked a question here from Amsterdam. When he asks serious questions, it's good.
Greedy's dead. He's he's dead.
That Greedy has nerve issues in his shoulder. Do I think numbness or atrophy? Not a typical stinger for sure. I looked up the causes for this. It usually happens in a much more traumatic circumstance where a nerve gets hammered from a violent collision of some sort, like an automobile accident. And it is 6 months. What they're saying is if you do not have the full use of and painlessly of the part of your body, that you then have to go in for uncertain certainty or surgery. I'm sorry, uncertain certainty. So if Greedy Williams 6 months out is still having problems, his career is finished.
Yep.
Because there's no surgery that's going to make that necessarily go away, and he's not going to be able to play with that. So, no, this is not an ordinary stinger. This is a situation where there has been a disruption to a nerve in the body. And, I'm coming out of it, all right, in my back. I'm going to be ready for tennis a week or two from now. But the inflammation has to go down and the nerve stops getting pressed. The thing is, what did he do that caused that nerve to get hammered like that? We don't know that.
Maybe he had a car accident. You don't know, do you?
We don't know. But what I will tell you is 6 months out, and if he's still not better, then his career's finished. He isn't going to play anymore. So
you're lucky you didn't have more of an accident with your trike. That would have fucked up your back.
Believe me, I could have made my back a lot worse. There's things you don't know either. But when it comes to nerve pain, believe me, Bronk and I both experience this on a regular basis. And
you got the scars to prove it,
nerve pain is bad fucking news. And I'm not going to tell you that the Greedy Williams is soft. What I'm going to tell you is that the medical situation there is the cause of this is unclear, but it is a 6-month wait and see. And if it's no better, then your outlook is very unfavorable, especially if you're a football player in the National Football League. So,
and he's a young man too. He's got the rest of his life. He could really paralyze himself if it's activated in the wrong way during a game.
Yeah, what you're dealing with.
That's definitely a possibility. Is he's still experiencing weakness and can't either have a full grip or move his arm at the elbow the way that he needs to.
Well, here's the deal, so that you understand the cervical spine, which I'm sure that Bronk knows better than anybody after what he's been through. It's usually the lower part of your cervical, which would be your C6, C7, C7, T1. Those areas, because there's more weight that pushes down, plus you're flexing and moving of the head, those facets get moved and have more of an opportunity to wear out cartilage, to start arthritic condition, which can create bone spurs, which will then, potentially create disc issues, and it goes from there. Does this look like for Greedy Williams?
And it's exacerbated by wearing a helmet. You're adding weight to your head.
I mean,
Yeah, probably.
I've got an issue in my C6, C7, and that is very similar, I think, to what Bronk had, which is
I had a C3, C4, which may have been caused by a number of things, possibly 40 years of saxophone playing or riding on trains or, whatever. So mine was higher up.
oh wow. I
And
mean,
more dangerous from the sense of ending up being paralyzed.
yeah, I mean, it's scary. I have a bone spur that actually contacts my spinal cord. I mean, these things don't just magically go away, and so that's the answer.
Spinal cord. Let's say your normal spinal cord is that size. Mine, where it was, thing was this size.
Yeah, that's right.
And turned white on the MRI. Normally, it should be all nice and gray all the way down. But the spot where C3, C4 was cutting away at it, the bit that was still there was white. So it's all got to try to sort of heal. And it will never fully heal. I still can't put my right foot down straight every time I walk without consciously thinking about it.
And what nerves go down, into this part of the shoulder would be cervical, lower cervical. C6, C7 would be a very typical going down right.
Yeah. I mean, it'll go down your whole body. I have problems with my arms and everything.
But stenosis in what you're describing in the cervical area would be a reason for a player to be shut down. They wouldn't allow him to play if he were suffering.
Oh no, I can't play football.
No, but I'm saying there have been players who had to retire because it's just like professional wrestlers who had to retire because of spinal stenosis. It is that.
Well, no, I mean, what was Shazir's injury? What did he fuck up? From Brian Shazier, do you remember?
Which Shazier? No, I mean that. But again, it's amazing that he's even walking.
Yeah, that was a neck injury, but I don't remember which.
I can't remember.
Oh, there is my asshole of the day, which it's just.
Not even on the panel, huh?
No, I have to dig deeper now because Trump's gone. Duke University.
Not that deep.
No, there's always in sports somebody you can find. And of course, it's my favorite limo driving head coach, Mike Krzyzewski, who is finding out that, there comes a point where players are proving, guys like Colin Sexton are coming into the NBA and they're lighting it up pretty good, and they're not attending the typical Duke, Kansas, North Carolina kinds of teams. That players are more distributed, at least NBA compatible players are spread out all over the country and for many different programs. So what's happening is schools like Kansas and the traditional big winners like North Carolina, Louisville and Kentucky, they're not the dominant ones that they have been in years past. Well, Krzyzewski just lost to Louisville 70-65, but they're not really doing very well. They're 5-5 this year and 3-3 in the ACC, which is unheard of for Duke, right? They could miss the NCAA tournament for the first time in more than 25 years. All right. We're talking about through 6 ACC games, their opponents have made more than 40% of their 3-point attempts, so their defense blows. They fell out of the top 25. And what happens? Well, a student who writes for the Duke Chronicle, the student newspaper, just asked him a question and said, what will your team's next step forward be after the loss? And Krzyzewski jumps down his throat and says, yeah, why don't we just evaluate this game? I'm not into what our next step forward is right now. He then compared the scenario to the student who wrote the article exiting a difficult class and immediately being asked about his toughest test.
What a dick.
What a dick is right. And you want to know what the best thing? When he came back, Piazza, this is the guy who wrote the article, he made the trip from North Carolina, Kentucky, just to take that shit from Krzyzewski, right? But Krzyzewski called him in his apartment in Durham, North Carolina after the game. Our call was short, but the sincerity in his apology was genuine. You know, it's like he could do something gracious, but no, I guess what I did wasn't right. All right, bye, click. And this is the arrogance of guys who are fully tenured, lifetime, never going to go anywhere, Nick Saban kind of guys who become Jesus Christ. That this is what allowed Adolph Rupp, the fucking racist, to remain at Kentucky all those years. You know? Now, no, we're not drafting black players here. We're not going to recruit black players. I'm Adolph Rupp. But you see, winning.
That was at one time, that was the entire SEC, though.
No, it was the whole entire country. I mean, it was.
Ohio State was a bit late with getting black players.
That's why Artis Gilmore ended up going to Jacksonville University in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So at any rate, he's my dick of the day, Mike Krzyzewski, who really made an ass.
He's a dick all of it. Every day he's a dick.
I just want to ask somebody something, just for the hell of it. All right.
Yeah.
If your career as a football coach started at Saginaw Valley State in Michigan in 2003, and then you moved up. All right, to Central Michigan University, which of course is the Mid-American Conference, and then Northern Michigan University in Marquette, all right, and then Ashland University in Ohio, all right. Then by 2008, 5 years later, you're picked up by the Houston Texans to be an offensive assistant. He assisted both wide receivers and quarterbacks during his 2-year stint there. Remember this, he was with the Texans. Then he moves to the Washington football team. When Shanahan's father, Mike, was hired by the Redskins, Kyle brought this guy to Washington to coach the quarterbacks in 2010, all right? He was responsible for mentoring RG3 and Kirk Cousins, right? Then he says, fuck it, I'm out of the NFL, all right? And then he returns to college football as a quarterback coach at the University of Notre Dame. And he got to tutor for a single season Everett Golson, the Everett Golson, all right? If you haven't heard of him, it's because he doesn't play in the NFL. All right. The Atlanta Falcons, after the very next year, it's like, all right, I've had enough of college. That was a mistake, but at least it was a payday. He returns to the NFL as a quarterback coach for the Falcons, working under, here we go again, Kyle Shanahan, with whom he'd previously worked with while being with the Washington Redskins, right? And the Houston Texans. So the only places this guy works are in Washington and in Houston. Then he gets a gig in Atlanta because of one guy who was with Washington and Houston. And then in 2016, he couldn't even keep his job beyond one season with the Falcons. He did have a second year, all right? And he coached Matt Ryan. Well, Matt Ryan was a good quarterback, so it's not like you coached him up. Then it's like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to the LA Rams as an offensive coordinator under Sean McVay, whom he had previously worked with the Redskins. And then, after 1 year, he said, I'm going on to the Titans, joining new head coach Mike Vrabel. He had new responsibilities, being able to call plays for the first time in 15 years. Isn't that groovy? Never called a play all those years he was offensively involved. However, the season didn't go well. The Titans finished with the 27th ranked scoring offense in the NFL in 2018. And what do you know? The next thing, he's head coach of the Green Bay Packers, and we're talking about him today. You're telling me that there is no white man's privilege, there is no old boys network actively going on within the NFL. Are you trying to tell me that what I just went over with y'all, that resume speaks to becoming a head coach in the NFL? You're wondering why he got the job? Well, shit, because you can look at an analytics sheet. The reason he didn't have any experience to fall back on, he didn't have any experience. I don't know. Trying to tell me that LaFleur was the most qualified guy, and all these people were sitting here trying to get into the league. What it tells you is you just got to start out shoveling shit for somebody, and if somebody on that staff thinks to dig somewhere, you just curry favor and follow them along and grab onto their coattails, and eventually you'll arrive wherever the hell you're arriving at. It's sorry.
But by the same token, that's kind of what happened with Vrabel when he quit playing.
I mean, this is the way it's done in the NFL. I'm not just picking on LaFleur.
Ironically, Pepper Johnson never made it to head coach, but he was always on a Bill Belichick staff when he quit playing.
Keep saying that Bieniemy, well, he's going to take over when Andy Reid leaves, because that's where that's where he is. Home is where your hat is, and that's where his hat is. Assuming that Andy Reid decides he's going to leave anytime soon, which nobody seems to know for sure. But I guess what I'm saying is that the way that you get ahead is you go along with somebody, and you rise with the tide with somebody, one or two other guys that you run into somewhere along the line. They remember you favorably. They throw you a bone, and the next thing you know, you're kind of an offensive assistant, and then you're with Freddie Kitchens and you're coaching the tight ends or whatever the situation is.
Right.
But
the way to get ahead is to give head.
And that would appear to be. So now we have a whole bunch of new head coaches in the NFL, and it's like, what do these people have to accomplish? Being the new guys on the block. I mean, Arthur Smith of the Falcons, Brandon Staley of the Rams, Robin Saleh of the Jets, Nick Sirianni of the Eagles. Those are the four right now that have been hired. And you know something? How could our ownership have gotten a guy in Freddie Kitchens who knew nobody? I mean, what I can tell you is the most important thing is having a scheme, all right? And that scheme, you either have to be a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator to become a head coach, because you have a scheme that works, and especially on the offensive side of the ball. Because you take a look at Kevin Stefanski, and I'm going to compare all these young guys who are coming up, or new guys, to Stefanski. Stefanski had a system that was a winner for ground game. All right. I mean, plain and simple, the zone scheme is great for running backs. I mean, that's what Shanahan consistently had. Both father and son had great running games. It works. You don't always
and it was plug and play at the running back for Denver and for Washington for years.
That's right. I was looking at holes like the Green Bay when they got holes, and I say Chubb would have been gone on that play. Seriously.
Yeah, for Cleveland when Kyle Shanahan was here, who do we have? Jerome Harrison or
no, we had Isaiah Crowell. I mean,
I think it was Crowell here.
And I mean, you got to have. You may not have a quarterback, but Kevin Stefanski turned that Kirk Cousins guy into a winner, right, Tony?
Yep.
I mean, that was the difference between an 11-5 quarterback and a guy for his whole career that was an 8-8 quarterback, right?
Correctamundo.
I mean,
this year he left, and all of a sudden the Vikings are 7-9 again.
That's right. I mean, that's who he is. But with a scheme, it starts there. But you got to have assistants. You've got to have coordinators that you bring in. So if you are the big defensive coordinator guy, you better have a Lindy Infante. And where Marty Schottenheimer went bad is when Infante moved on to coach the Green Bay Packers. He said, I'll do it myself. And it's like, that was a huge mistake. Yeah. I mean, Marty Schottenheimer, a fucking linebacker, know about offense. And it turned out nothing at all.
We were never the same.
Yeah. It's
Brown's starting running back that year Shanahan was in town was indeed Crowell, but you had Terrence West as well.
yeah. But look at Terrence West was averaging a good amount of yards per carry.
Yeah.
He looked useful. You know, we had Alex Mack at center.
And I think West ended up with over 600 yards that year.
I mean, we ran the ball, and Crowell was just a horse's ass, it turned out. But, I mean, hell, he gained over 1,000 yards for us. I think it was like 1,200 yards, if my memory serves me right. He had a big year with the Browns.
And
God, wide receivers that year were bad.
Yeah.
It should have been Taylor Gabriel, Andrew Hawkins, something called
Little
Phil
guys
Bates.
who had no speed. That was unbelievable. I remember back then. Remember when we got Josh Gordon? He was like in the land of the Lilliputians, you know. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Hey, we got a guy who actually go up and catch the ball over somebody. But assistant coaches are so important, and you know, you can't do everything. You've got to be able to delegate to be a successful head coach. And right now, the problem the Browns have, we don't have defensive personnel, and I'm not sure about Joe Woods. We're going to find out about him. But I can tell you this, Mike McCarthy named Mike Nolan his defensive coordinator. When that happened, that should have been an alarm going off. When Mike McCarthy said, you know, you're not getting the old Mike McCarthy because I've studied rigorously about the new way things are being done in the NFL. And then he names Mike Nolan as defensive coordinator. And Nolan had been out of the NFL for 16 years.
And once again, now you shitbags who who fucking shit all over me that said, oh, we got to hire Mark McCarthy. He's a winner. Yeah. No. Aaron Rodgers is the fucking winner. He won despite Mike McCarthy, not because of Mike McCarthy. Okay? Now you all understand what would have happened to the Browns with a Mike McCarthy as the head coach.
We had a choice. And the choice is always the same thing. It's the retread name. And Mike McCarthy was never my favorite, not because I felt ill of him in his stint in Green Bay, but the fact that he was dated and the game was changing so radically. I didn't believe that, you know, I didn't want another guy being brought in just for a payday. Everybody has a choice to go with an established person. You know, and I mean, look at the Raiders. Do you think that bringing Chucky back into the fold, you know, was the answer for the Raiders? I mean, Gruden really hasn't done dick since he won one Super Bowl that somebody else really won by putting a roster together, and he just happened to guide it through, you know, a little slalom course to get to the Super Bowl. But you know, it's. But
yeah, and he won with Brad Johnson, people. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, I mean, but a guy who's, you know, Dallas's defense was horrible this year, and it's because the guy didn't know what was going on. He, you know, he's been out of the NFL for, you know, for 6 years. You know, what Stefanski did, I mean, you know, Van Pelt is a guy who's an experienced quarterback coach that Baker Mayfield needed to bond with somebody. He also proved that he was good enough to call plays in a game so that if we were concerned about that in the future, that we don't need to be concerned about that. Joe Woods, everybody talks about Joe Woods because he's a minority coach, as the future head coach, which is what they always talk about, but it never happens. And I'm not sure Joe Woods had a lot of talent coaching linebackers and such in San Francisco, but he doesn't have anywhere near that kind of talent. You know, Prefer we were hating on last year, remember? Not this past year, but the year before, remember?
Yeah.
And they brought him back.
No, in 2019, he was the bright spot of the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, it was 2020 when everything went to kind of shit.
Okay, right.
It was a slide backwards. We went back to the whatever the southern asshole's name that was here for far too long.
And Bill Callahan was the best guy you could have possibly gotten, and for and investing in offensive linemen, getting a pick like Jed Wilson, getting fortunate with scheme on Wyatt Teller. That those are huge things, but
Conklin.
Conklin, yeah. I mean, that's another anchor on the other side of the line. And the idea is you have to be able to sell something to the players, and it's got to be more than we're going to bite their kneecaps off. It has to be something where the coach keeps the players in the game. And I found one interesting thing that nobody's talking about as far as Stefanski is concerned. All right. The Cleveland Browns did not lose consecutive games all year.
Correct.
All right.
They lost one game a month. One game in September, one game in October, one game in November, one game in December, and a game in January.
The last time a coach of the year didn't lose consecutive games was in 2017 when Sean McVay and the Rams went 11-5. And, that speaks to that 1 week at a time mentality that he has been drilling in since he got here. And we don't see that from a lot of these coaches coming into the league. It's like they all get these guys all riled up, and then they go out and they're not very good, and then the players give up. And we've seen it in Cleveland for decades.
Yeah, the Ray Twain, lose one game badly, and then you suddenly lose the next four badly.
Yeah.
When it doesn't matter, you might win the last 4 games in a row, when nobody gives a shit.
The Browns never lost their confidence during the course of the year. And that is what a cool and steady head will get you. Now,
and everybody major was hurt except for Baker Mayfield. Chubb was out for a while. Beckham was out. Landry was playing hurt the whole time. Garrett was out. Garrett was playing hurt. Ward was out. He was hurt. Every major player except for the quarterback was hurt. On the offensive line.
If you're talking about this year, Mayfield had suffered the cracked ribs because
exactly.
Dupree.
That too.
The other thing that to me is really imperative, along with a steady attitude, and you got to put in the work, it's more than just running through repetitions in practice, because all teams do reps. The thing is internalizing those repetitions. And something? I think the pandemic helped the Cleveland Browns because we had to focus on things that we didn't know in a virtual kind of environment, which made this a scholastic enterprise for the Cleveland Browns. And the head coach was able to deliver that for them. And that's the exact opposite. We're going to bite their kneecaps off, which doesn't help anybody. Yeah, Bron.
Yeah, if you go back to one of the really early Building the Browns episodes during the draft evaluation, they brought in Jedrick Wills, they brought in Harrison Bryant and these guys, and they asked them proper, intelligent questions like, here's some film, what's happening here, what's the guy's responsibility, what's this, what's that, and they were answering them back. And that's how they drafted people that could look at a situation and see what their responsibility was and what they had to do, and they were 21 years old or 20 years old. That's the way to do it.
And the other thing that is the thing it's the emotional aspects of playing football, which is you got to be ready at game time when the gun goes off, so to speak. You've got to charge. You got to put all of your energy.
Playing football. Do you enjoy it? Is it something you want to do? I mean, because if you're hurt, it's very easy to give up. If you're not feeling well, fuck it. You can give up a lot easier than if you're not.
Leave.
And to kind of address this Lions thing, Dorsey did help with building blocks that did get the Browns 12-6 and get their first playoff win. So let's not shit on the man too
Absolutely.
fucking badly. And Campbell, even though he might be a Mike Ditka guy, type of head coach, if he has three decent coordinators, the Lions could be a hell of a team. They can make it. They could be the second best team in the division behind the Packers.
Not acting like a schmuck like that. No, we can't. And because what I'm going to say is this next, and it's what this kind of bite them off at the kneecaps thing breeds. Go about your work and shut the fuck up. It's like my favorite line about the bellboy. Hey,
Carry my bags.
I got a stock tip for you, Mr. Steenbarger. Like, shut the fuck up and carry my bags. Sometimes you just got to put your head down and work. And it isn't just Nick Chubb, because this is obviously, a lunchbox kind of guy. And he does his work, and he does, and he expresses himself through his activities on the field. But how much shit did you hear from Batonio? How much shit did you hear from Conklin? How much shit did you hear from Treader? How much shit did you hear from Jedrick Wills? The people.
Well, Treader is kind of the odd man out in that scenario because he is the president of the Players Association. So you are going to hear more from Treader.
but about business, not about not this Juju Schuster-Smith bullshit.
Fancy on the logo bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, but this is what, getting people all fired up and revved up leads to this kind of a lack of discipline. And, I didn't hear Hollywood Higgins shitting on people saying, I got you the last week, Pittsburgh, I'm coming after you again. You don't give people that kind of incentive. You don't hear, Landry's emotional on the field, but, low key, the week of, you never hear him talking badly about his next opponent. You just don't. And that's, if anything that these young coaches want to, learn from Kevin Stefanski is don't allow the players to take control of a situation and don't rev them up into such a frenzy. I mean, you don't think that Mike Tomlin's attitude had something to do with the Myles Garrett incident? Do you think that playing against a team that consistently gives your players concussions and he tells players to headhunt, do you really think that's not going to come back and haunt at some point and cause a major incident? And do you think that same attitude won't create people doing exactly what Juju does on the field and the shit that he continues writing, or the shit that Claypool now is bringing up?
But you're talking about Stefanski's kind of towards the middle of that. At the other extreme, you could have the walking kumquat in fucking Minnesota, or the other asshole that got fired in Buffalo. Do you want somebody who you could fucking run them over with a shopping cart and they won't say diddly dick about it? Or do you want somebody that's going to fucking get up and shove you in the chest and say, hey, fuck you, don't do that?
In the game, I want people who take control. After the game, I want people who are accountable and don't whine like whiny little bitches like Claypool did, because it accomplishes nothing. All it does is it makes you look like you're a big baby and you can't handle losing. And it's probably because you can't, because you're weak-minded. That's what it tells me. And, all the things I used to read about the Cleveland Browns. Oh, we're ready for this game. We're ready because we were practicing really hard. We look great in practice. All that crap that I've heard for decades from the Cleveland Browns. And then they show up on the field and it was like, what happened?
And the Browns lose 38-3.
Yeah.
Now nobody says nothing. We come out on the field. We lay an egg against the Raiders. And I think we all at that point thought, oh, God, here's the swoon. Here we go again. It's Freddie Kitchen's seesaw time. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's that?
Well, but to me, that was almost a throwaway game because the conditions were so unbelievably bad to try and get anything going with the passing game. And that's the one game that all these bobbleheads want to fucking talk about how bad Baker Mayfield was throwing the football. And it's like, these assholes never played the quarterback position, except for maybe Dan Orlovsky, who played in a goddamn dome for his home games. So he wouldn't know a windy game from his own asshole.
No.
So,
And again,
you gotta take a lot of things into consideration, especially when you're watching game film and the opposing quarterback throws a pass and it goes 7 yards out of bounds.
and let me tell you something. Greg Popovich is considered the greatest coach of the NBA for a reason. And, it starts with David Robinson all the way back. And then when he took Tim Duncan under his wing, and then Tim Duncan, they all took each other under their wing, and they trained all those, the Manu Ginobili's got trained into the system. The Kawhi Leonard's got, bought into the system and the way that they do things. It starts with that year one thing that the Browns did. And when it goes off the tracks, man, like Adam Gase, when you saw Adam Gase, and that there was like a frenzy going on inside that organization and a confusion, you right off the bat that the train's gone off the tracks. At no time did you feel that the Browns season, our fear may have led us to believe that after the Raiders game, but at no time, and when we were fearful that we barely got by the Steelers with Mason Rudolph. And now with Big Ben coming, and look what happened. They put their foot down and they played a great football game. That's what you're looking for. And we damn near beat the Chiefs. Damn near got it done. We played two really pretty damn good postseason games for a team that hadn't been there in God knows how long. So
27 years. Wow.
Brilliant. I mean,
pace up and keep the culture up and keep improving, baby steps.
And it isn't drafting players who just happen to be a certain way. I think Nick Chubb is just that way. I mean, he's turned out to be the greatest running back that nobody ever really thought much about in college. I mean, I know that he was listed as one of the top 5 running backs, but at the time it was Saquon Barkley, and Saquon Barkley.
Well, up until his knee injury, he was erasing a lot of Todd Gurley's fucking rushing stats.
And
at the University of Georgia. And then it was the other guy,
Michelle.
Yeah, Sony Michel.
Another guy who went lower.
And then they had to split time his senior year.
But, he happened to be a certain type of guy. But the coach implemented something, and, he didn't want people talking to the press. When Mack Wilson went off and started shooting his mouth off, that's when Mack Wilson's playing time went to hell in a handbasket. He wasn't performing well enough on the field, and he was causing grief off of it. That's it. You sit down. And that's how it's like you're just not going to play. And it isn't that being in a doghouse like we've seen in other regimes in Cleveland.
Freddie Kitchens.
The coach will use a player as an example and say to him, we're going to need you at some point, but we ain't going to need you talking shit like this. I want to see it on the game film. I don't want to hear about it in the locker room after the game or before the game. I just want to see it on the game film. That's what culture is. That's how you bring it in. So are these coaches going to be able to get that done? I don't know.
Well, I think every time there's a new crop of head coaches, let's say there's 5 of them, I would say 1 out of the 5 actually sticks at that team for a few years and has some success. That's such a poor shit success rate because they're already coming into a shitty situation where the last guy got fired. So I don't have a lot of hope out for any of these clowns.
Yeah. And
what does Dwayne Stats think of Tampa Bay being in the Super Bowl? We haven't heard from Dwayne lately.
oh, Dwayne Stats. I
Dwayne
forgot
Stats.
about him.
Bronk with these random
How about
references.
those Buccaneers? How about those Buccaneers?
Woohoo!
I don't know how I get the kind of a thing in this throat thing that you got to do to do Dwayne Stanton saying, "Hey, we're back for Rays baseball."
Yeah.
And Dickie V. You should have Dwayne Stats and Dickie V preview the Super Bowl.
I heard Dickie V on the air doing a college game, and it's like, wow. I mean,
He's probably old now.
oh yeah, Dick Vitale. I mean, I want to see how old Dickie is. Let me see.
He's old.
How old is Dick Vitale? Okay,
Closet's bigger than your
81,
house.
81 years old.
He's old.
Oh, baby, I've got gout, baby.
Hey, he's older than Larry King.
Look at the size of these ankles.
He's more alive than Larry King, too.
Did somebody change my diaper? I'm a diaper dandy.
Thank you, Bronk.
Oh, better yet, yeah, the Larry King thing. I mean, Roxanne and I were having a ball with the Larry King thing. It's like,
He's still dead.
Yeah, he's dead.
men who go to the hospital with COVID and never come back out. On the next, Larry King dead. Yeah.
Dickie V's outlived them all, man. Peter Alice, Larry King.
Yeah, there's a whole generation now. Yeah, these are the Dwayne Stats. At least he's still active,
But that's a voice that I'll never forget for as long as I live.
I mean, I don't know what, because I live here and you get the local Rays broadcast, and it's really like I keep envisioning him masturbating,
Oh my God, this is really feeling great right now. I'm stroking my hand over my penis.
You're excited. Feel these nipples.
See, you're starting to get too now.
I think I'm gonna come.
Well, that's because he sounds like fucking Dudley Do-Right.
He does now. You're right. He does.
So a bit like Bullwinkle
No,
Blues, but
why are you
not-
raping my horse?
It looks like I did you a favor here. I woke Key up anyway in the chat room with Dwayne Stats masturbating. I was just like, Dwayne Stats having anal sex. You ready for this? Dwayne Stats having anal sex. Here we go.
Oh, I didn't know it was going to hurt this bad.
Jesus.
That's a free range move, man. You're off the reservation.
My apologies to Dwayne Stats' family,
Meatloaf again?
I can see him bitching at home. All kinds of things.
He sounds like a character who should be on Rocky the Flying Squirrel, Should be like one of Bullwinkle's buddies. Hey, Bullwinkle.
All right, everybody.
Hey, Bullwinkle, what are we going to do with all these box tops?
Don't know.
So, everybody, I'm done. We got 4 minutes of bonus move head today. And anything that ends with Dwayne Stats in sexually compromising positions, that's going to become an ongoing thing. Now, Dwayne Stats, thank you for reminding me about this problem. We're going to put him in every bad situation. Dwayne Stats in a Bukkake movie. It's like,
I don't know if I can take another load or not. Let me swallow what I got.
I remember Cal Sedano when he hit first.
Speaking of being in a bukkake, how about those Cavs last night? Jesus Christ.
Almighty, did they get
Something's bent them over the fucking coffee table.
Tommy Heinz, he's dead too. So.
That's called shitting the bed. That's like, oh, we're great. We beat the Nets 2 games. It's like, well, wait, tonight at 8
They
o'clock.
got LeBron and the Lakers.
The Lakers, yeah. And you want to know the funny thing? I think the team was looking beyond Boston. Brad Stevens, like, what the fuck, What the fuck?
Oh,
Kyrie left us, not our dignity. Come on. the game just, I mean,
Well, you never know what he packed in his suitcase.
you know, it would be like the Kentucky Derby, and the one horse just decides not to run out of the gate. That was yesterday's game. 11-2 before the game began. You know, it was difficult. And but there's going to be nights like that, and it's a good learning lesson because the Cavaliers do not have the talent to be able to take their foot off the, you know. And it figures they had lost. Boston had lost 3 games in a row, and their defense had done shit. But you know, it was like you go in there thinking more of yourself, you know, or as Austin Carr would say, feeling good about yourself, you know. You're one step away from humility, and that's
Pat's feeling good about himself. Huh?
I don't know what we're going to do to stay with Anthony Davis and LeBron and everyone else. It's going to be they're 10-0 on the road this year.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Unbelievable.
yeah.
All right, gang, I gotta take off. So
Yeah. What do you?
What is it you're taking up?
take off to the great white north. Take off, cause it's a beauty way to go. There you go, Key. I managed to squeeze in the song.
All right.
Wow.
Whatever.
All right, I gotta go pick up my mom from Home Depot. See you guys on Friday.
I tried picking up your mom last week.
Is she on layaway?
With that back, you couldn't pick up a sack of potatoes.
I'll just put a handle on there and I can give her a lift.
Okay, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in to this edition of
You should have mentioned his mom. That's a schoolboy. You never mentioned your mom.
We'll be back again with more disgusting broadcast Friday as we get closer to the Super Bowl here in
Paz Tadano special.
God.
make that stop right now. All right, everybody, take care, and I will see you again Friday, 6:00 Eastern. Until then,
Bye-bye.
the beast of Pasternak.
Good night, everybody.
Hey.
Really?